Dan, thanks very much indeed for joining us here on the Friday Club. Couldn't really have been a better start to the season for you. Plenty of big race winners already. Let's start by talking about Lomilos, the most recent of those in the Coral Gold Cup. It must have been some feeling to see him bounding over those fences and just hanging on in the end.
Yeah, it was brilliant, really. What can I say? Winning that race. I know it's had a few different names, especially of late, but it is now the Coral Trophy. But to win that race is just magical. It's one of the big ones, and we had a bit of a plan there with Lomilos, obviously going to Bangor first and then heading down that route. So it doesn't always come off. You might have great intentions and best plans and everything else, but it is actually hard to get it all to come together, and we're just delighted that it did.
And I imagine when he first came to you, you must have thought you've inherited a pretty well handicapped horse. If you immediately thought the Coral Gold Cup would be the aim.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got him, obviously it was a fresh start for him and a fresh set of eyes from me. I was going to look at him however it was appropriate, but I was kind of expecting a horse that obviously stayed very well, and he confirmed that before I got him. He's confirmed it since, obviously, but I thought I was getting a horse that stayed very well and wanted real soft ground, and perhaps might one day develop into a Grand National horse. But sort of like a month into training, I just felt like he maybe was had a bit more pace than I expected. And I said to the owners, "Look, this is a bit ambitious, but we were going to go for the Beecher, but I said we should definitely be giving ourselves the option of the Ladbroke the Coral, because I just felt that he was really going the right way, even at an early stage in the season. And we just planned it out. We said I had it in my mind that you can only win that race. Of course, Denman proved it incorrect. There may be one or two others that statisticians might tell me, but I always think you need to have a run under your belt to win that race. So obviously I planned out Bangor, and I actually said to the owners, if you finish sort of third here, need the run, this would be a great prep run and you won't carry a penalty. And I remember Whisper got beat in the race carrying a penalty because he'd won at Sandown, and he got beat sort of like half a length by Total Recall. And I thought, geez, maybe the penalty beat you. And I actually thought you probably don't want a penalty for this race, but we justified that penalty. But I think I learned more than the £4 penalty that he got from Bangor at Bangor. So, it's in the rear view mirror now. But at the time, I did think £4 was a bit inconvenient, but it wasn't.
So Grand National possibility for Lomilos. One of the most heartwarming images I thought of the season so far was when you and Harry embraced after Protectorat won the Betfair Chase. How amazing a moment was that for you to see him go and win such a big prize, and in the manner that he did it?
Obviously, winning those Grade Ones is what everyone aspires to do, and it is very, very hard to do. You can't, with a handicap. Of course, you can be well in, or fortune can favour you on the day, etc. But to win those Grade Ones, you have to be the best horse, really, and that is it's a great feeling when you've got that horse. And he was very authoritative and jumped great, and all came together quite nicely. He's obviously an improving and high quality horse. That's only ever his fourth go at the trip. He's not an old horse, and dare I say it, I think there's even more to come, because there has been more coming. If you look at his profile, other than Aintree, when I ran him too quick, but at the time, why not? It was the end of the season. It was his last run. We'll never do that again, because we've got the answer to the question we asked, and it wasn't favourable. So, only a fool would ask that question again. We're not going to. But I think he's shown that he improved in the Many Clouds last year. He improved to the Gold Cup, and he improved again at Haydock.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I quite fancied him for the Gold Cup last year, I have to say. And now I definitely fancy him for this year's Gold Cup. In the last couple of years, last 4 or 5 years, I would say, you've definitely started to favour quality over quantity. And I think it's fair to say that's definitely an ideal that's being borne out now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you can't just you can't just stand at home, stamp your feet, and go, I want to compete in these races, and I want to have different types of horses, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. That doesn't get you anywhere. We had an objective. We were open with our objective. We didn't do it. We didn't do it quietly. We sort of spoke very openly, especially with the owners, about what the objective was. Everybody was on board, but ultimately, we couldn't have done what we've done without the grounding and the foundations that we built off having, quality, a high number of horses, a high number of winners. There's some quality winners in there, of course there was. But you can't do it. We can't have got to this point without what went before. And I'll be forever indebted to every horse, every member of staff, every owner who ever helped us climb the ladder. So you've got to remember that it's not just a case of going, right, we're changing tack and that's it. You change tack. You have to implement it, and you have to implement it carefully, and you have to have the support of those around you to do so. And we were lucky that we did. But we were equally lucky that we had the platform on which to do it. It's not a simple or straightforward thing to do. And we kind of proved that we could do the big numbers thing. And I think because of that, perhaps when we came up with a new plan, the fact that we'd carried off sort of one plan gave us a little bit of credibility to carry out the next one. So we're in a really good position. Of course we are. I'm absolutely delighted with it. And like I say, I'm indebted to everybody, who helped us get here. And, ultimately everyone's helping us stay here as well. So it's great, but, you don't look down because, you know what's there. Do you know what I mean? You've got to keep going. And one thing we are doing is we are sort of appreciating it more because the wheel does keep turning, and it's not an easy thing to do with the system the way it is, to stop and to sort of take stock, because the show goes on. Tomorrow there's another 2 meetings, the day after there's another 3 meetings, everything else. But we have tried to sort of just for a moment just go, wow, that was a great day, or that was a great run, and I think that's quite healthy actually. We're all way too wrapped up in sort of going next. We've got to appreciate these big races for what they are.
That's a really good point you make, actually, because I saw comments after Braveman's game won the Charlie Hall. Plenty of people were saying, oh, he's going to get thrashed in the King George. It's not really about that, is it? It's the fact that a horse wins a big race in its own right, and I think that can be forgotten.
Oh, massively. And to be quite honest with you, I'll talk frankly, everybody would believe that anything that happens before the Cheltenham Festival is a prep run.
Absolutely.
And it's not the truth. It's not the truth at all. And, what about the horses that don't suit the undulations of Cheltenham? Why aren't they allowed their big days? It's Cheltenham is a healthy pinnacle to our sport, but it is not the only meeting that exists in the year. And I think we are in danger, and I don't like the potential of, we've already granded it up to its maximum. I don't like the idea of it going anymore, because ultimately you're selling a product to, the public that says, come and see all the warm-ups at Cheltenham. Then we'll go, what's the point in seeing all the warm-ups? We'll just go to those 4 big days. We won't bother with the rest. There's a big calendar out there full of fantastic races. And we know what it's like to win a couple of them now, and it's fantastic. And I wouldn't swap them. Yeah, of course, Gold Cup's the pinnacle, Champion Hurdle's the pinnacle, Champion Chase is the pinnacle. We all know that. We don't need to be reminded of that. It's not like you have to be told, oh, don't forget, there is another. We know all of this, but it's not really. I don't think it's really about this time of year just going, God, what's going to happen in 3-4 months' time? It's not. You've got to take stock and have a look now, because what if one of these great winners goes and cuts themselves, has a little cut at the races, and misses their big day? That's not their fault. They couldn't prove whether they were good enough or not on that big day that apparently is more important than any others. You didn't appreciate them when you could see them. You telling me that what you saw off Constitution Hill wasn't incredible to see? Do you not want to see that? Do you just want to only want to see that once a year? I don't. I want to see that. I'm a fan of the sport as well as a competitor. I love seeing that. Wow. And if you just keep sort of going, wow, they're all warm-ups, you can't be expected. You can't then expect people not to treat them as such, if that makes sense. So, I love competing. I love competing, and I have, got in my mind now that you've got to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely. And we know that you're not shy about competing against other big horses in big races. What did you make of Gordon Elliott's comments earlier in the week about how some trainers in this country are kind of ducking and diving and dodging their top opposition?
I don't really subscribe to that at all. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if that's how it looks to him, well, fair play. I don't think that's the case at all, and I know competing on a regular basis what it's actually like, and I've never thought I'll duck that or I'll dodge that or I'll dive that or whatever, and I've never done that. What you've got to remember is a grade 1 horse is a grade 1 horse. A grade 2 horse is not a grade 1 horse, and a grade 3 horse is not a grade 1 horse either. So you're going to go and turn up at all these dances with Constitution Hill et al. If you don't turn up with a horse able to go and do that, one, you certainly ain't going to win, but you're going to give your horse an extraordinarily hard race that's going to take a long time to get over. You add into that equation the ground. Well, if whatever the ground is, whether it's on the quick side, the slow side, or whatever, if you have ground concerns, it's not necessarily how the horse performs on the day, it's how long it takes to get over that run. So, if you're ducking or dodging a race or something because the ground's really, really soft and your horse wants nicer ground, might not necessarily have anything to do with the chance of the horse on the day, but you're thinking to yourself, if I run that horse on heavy ground, it's going to take it 6 weeks to get over it. And do you know what? I think more of my horse than to do that to it. And the same can be said for quicker conditions. So all this ducking and diving thing, I can see, what he's sort of trying to get at, in that what he's saying is that in Ireland, there's perhaps a higher concentration of quality, so more run against each other. But I think his choice of words were poor, and I think that the reality is very different.
Yeah, no, I would agree. A quick question on this. Nube Negra, when he won the Schlur Chase, the race fell apart beforehand. He didn't really have much to beat in the end. As a man who won the race with Nube Negra, obviously you were delighted to get a prize like that, but did it disappoint you a touch that there wasn't more of a threat to him in the race?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, Edward Stone's a novice. Last year, he's stepping out of novice company. Novices can go one of two ways. It could have been a great novice year. It could have been an average novice year. You're taking on an established horse in Nube Negra, who, okay, he hasn't won a champion chase, but he was second in one. We were quite bullish. We thought, come on, we can, we're good round this track, and we've got a bit of nice ground, and this is kind of our this is what we want. These are our conditions, and we love to have a go at him, because that might have been our advantage to our day. It was in our advantage to beat him. On soft ground, it would be advantage Edward Stone. But I understand why Alan took the horse out. I was very disappointed that was how it turned out for our horse. There's a number of reasons for that. One, I like to be competitive. Number two, it tells you nothing. And actually, number three, if I'm totally honest with you, you're on a hide into nothing going out there with a 12 on shot. You know what I mean? You're supposed to win, and if you don't, or if you make it look scrappy, it's kind of embarrassing. So it wasn't a great position to be in, but nonetheless, that was the one we were in, and we just got on with it. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we were frightened of taking on Edward Stone on the day, and we're still not, because Edward Stone hasn't been out because of the weather, which isn't Alan King's or anyone else's fault. But like I say, I'd have loved to have had a go, and I'm sure Alan would as well. By the way, Alan King doesn't dodge it; he'll get stuck in, but conditions have to be appropriate, and that's what you have to understand. It's not necessarily about just the competition on the day, your horse is very important. You know, any horse is very important. And if you start running them on conditions that, you know, put them not necessarily at risk, because we wouldn't put them at risk. If you start putting them in the position where they're going to have extraordinarily hard races or difficult races, or a situation where you think it might be hard to get over, you're not doing your job as a horseman or woman. You know, you're not doing what you should do. And there's days to, you know, there's days to be brave and there's days not. And you know, Alan made the decision. Nicky's made some decisions since then. Obviously, a couple that have come under extraordinary scrutiny. I've took horses out. You know, I'm not saying that I haven't took horses out on the ground, because it's been an unusual autumn. But you know, we all want to run. At the end of the day, we don't train these horses since the middle of July to keep training them until Boxing Day. You know, we want to run them. Make no mistakes, we want to run them.
And just on that 2-mile battle between some of the biggest names in the sport, it's the Tingle Creek on Saturday, of course. Looking at the race as it stands at the moment, at the time of recording, Shishkin and Eberstone might not run, but they might run against Grenadine. From a kind of racing enthusiast point of view, which way would you be leaning? Who do you think has got the best chance of winning? I
think it's really in Grenadine's favour at the moment. He's good around the track. He likes a bit of decent ground. He's had a run under his belt. Positive. Shishkin has been awesome. On his last run, has a mountain to climb. Now, if that was a veterinary issue, as Nicky's relayed, if he's all over that, he's going to be very hard to beat again. You have to see it as a horseman. There will always be that little bit of a niggle in the back of your mind. You know, if you didn't expect it to turn up on the day and it did back in March, you do have some concern. Of course you do. And I know Nicky will be concerned. But if it's not there, and that's what the medical opinion is, then, you know, he'll go there full of, yeah, we can do this. We're back to where we were. And Kingy turns up with last year's best novice going, I'm going to show you all. But I think, you know, it's definitely advantage Greener team for those three reasons. And if you play hard to beat.
Before we finish, just want to ask you about a couple more horses. Firstly, My Drogo, who I know has been at Polly Gundry's. What's the update with him?
He's well. She's happy with him. He'll come back to us in, I'd say, end of January time. We'll do a load of training with him. I don't see him running, and then we'll have him ready properly for next autumn. He had a tendon injury. They take a year to get over. That brings us up to, you know, somewhere around Christmas time. That's exactly a year. You then got to do 3 months training. Well, that's January, February, March. You know, you're then running on watered ground at Aintree. Is that really what you need for the sake of one run? That's just that's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Shame, obviously, not to see him this season, but hopefully be back
exactly
all guns blazing next time. And the other one is Lac du Constance, who was so impressive at Kempton in a race that's been won by some very decent horses in the past.
Yeah, I was super happy with him. Obviously, watching that, you know, you might look at him and go, "God blimey, he's brilliant." You know, what can't he do? But I know that there's still a bit of fragility in there mentally. If you just let him rip and attack, you know, you could unravel the cord quite easily. Harry had him, you know, very much under control. The first jump was very important. He had a lovely first jump. That set the tone for the rest of the race. He's a horse that thrives on confidence. He's lightly raced. We've always sort of protected him a bit. And there will be a day to take the cotton wool off and let him go against all the big boys. I'm not afraid to go to Kempton on the 27th in a grade 2, because he's been around that track and hopefully the ground is soft and that's right. But I wouldn't just want to go and take him to like the Knoll novices at Ascot. You know, half the fence is a sharp downhill, you know, and sort of go and ask him that type of question. He's not ready for that yet. He will be. I'm not going to just protect him forever, but there'll be a day when it's appropriate to do so, and it's just not yet. Like I say, watching him, you know, from the sidelines, even I was like, "God blimey, that was brilliant." But everything went so well, you know. And if I saw that twice, then I'd have to get more adventurous. But you know, all I can say is that it felt like all the jumps were in the right place with him, and that, you know, everything went as smooth as it could. If it didn't go that smooth, I think you'd see not necessarily you'd see him getting beat, because he has got a lot of talent, but I think you could see it, you know, a run that perhaps had a couple of blemishes on it in the jumping stakes. So I want to go and see it again, and if we do, then we'll step him up. But you know, he's a novice. He didn't make a mistake the other day. Those mistakes are going to come, and he's got to learn how to cope with them. And you can't just release him at an Ascot or a Cheltenham and expecting the mistakes to come, but expecting him to cope with them. It's just not fair on the horse.